My name is Samantha Brewster, Education Specialist with Ducks Unlimited Canada. I am based out of the Conservation Centre in Fredericton, New Brunswick, and I take care of all of our educational programs for New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. Very happy to be here today at Sunpoke Marsh in Oromocto, New Brunswick, and I would like to acknowledge that this land is part of the ancestral homeland and unceded territory of the Wabanaki Confederacy, which includes the Wolastoq, Mi'kmaq, Passamaquoddy, and Penobscot people. This territory falls within the peace and friendship treaties signed by these nations prior to 1779 and recognizes and affirms the existing rights of Indigenous peoples by the Canadian Constitution. Ducks Unlimited Canada is a non-profit conservation organization. Our mission is to conserve and restore Canada's wetlands for the benefit of waterfowl, wildlife, and people. We have been conserving and restoring wetlands in the province of New Brunswick since the 1950s. As well as our mission around conservation, we also offer educational programming opportunities for children of all ages and the general public. Our education programs focus on the benefits of wetlands, the animals and plants that live there, and the importance of conserving these unique habitats. We have been offering education programs since 1996 in the province of New Brunswick. Over time, our program has grown and developed, and we are now moving towards incorporating two-eyed seeing, which includes both a scientific approach as well as traditional Indigenous knowledge.
Before we came out today, I spent the last quite a bit of time asking people about our songs and to see if we had a rice song, a rice harvesting song. And I even went as far as Maine. I have a friend down there who's a curator for the museum there for the Passamaquoddy. So I thought, okay, maybe he'll know. And he says, no, there's no songs for rice specifically. All he had were, he had a harvest song that was a general harvest song. I said, okay, well, you know, all right. So we went and got in the canoe, and I couldn't remember how to say the word rice. Someone told me a while ago, probably my cousin, so I said, Lisa, because she's in the language program, I said, how do you say rice? And she said, up del motini whale. Yes. And I said, let's sing it or sing it. And she started singing it, so we started singing up del motini whale, up del motini whale, up del motini whale. Up del motini whale, up del motini whale. And it means just rice, 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 rice. But it was fun because it's a beginning of a song. And hopefully as we go through the years, we'll add verses to it and it'll get better. Okay, I'm here. This relationship it's been, you know, I was just telling the folks earlier a little bit of the backstory, how we got here today, and it's been a few years in the making. And I met someone from Ducks Unlimited a few years ago, and they gifted me some rice for I did a cultural awareness training for the regional office. And afterwards, they gifted me a bag of the wild rice. And so I called them or I sent them an email and said, hey, you know, we should partner and we should do this because I know that we haven't, our communities haven't done any rice harvesting in over 100 years. And he said, oh, wow, that's really neat. We would love to do that. It's wonderful. I think that this is something that we look forward to doing every year. And I think that the folks who are here today, they're stoked. They really are ready to come back next year. And I said, yeah, let's camp out. Let's just stay here and harvest rice like our ancestors would have done, you know, 100 years ago. Yeah.
So this is what led us to the partnership with Wabanaki Tree Spirit Tours and Events, which is co-owned by Cecilia Brooks and her son Anthony Bardwell. They have been working with us for over a year now, delivering Indigenous content through the Ducks Unlimited Conservation Center in Fredericton. And today I'm so excited to be here for the first annual wild rice harvest. This is a very exciting event of cultural significance to the Indigenous community. Cecilia and Anthony will be teaching the event attendees about the importance of the wild rice harvest and the ceremonies that would have traditionally been done around that harvest. And then we'll also prepare the rice to eat at an event later in the winter.
The significance of the wild rice harvest for our communities is that it's a piece of our culture that has been set aside for so long. And it wasn't by our choice. It was a result of being sequestered on reserve lands. And many people don't know this, but we weren't just freely allowed to leave the reserve lands to go do the things that we normally would have done. We had to get a written pass to leave. And so bringing this back brings back and preserves some of our ancestors' knowledge and our culture. The history of the tradition, I guess my imagination would have to work on that one, but it would be a tradition because it was for survival. It was for food, so that we could eat. And I would think that it was done annually, so that they would have enough fresh rice every year. And most certainly, when the glaciers first receded, over 10,000 years ago, that was one of the first things that would have come up, would be grasses. It would have been one of our first foods. If you look back at when the Indian Act was enacted, so that would have been 1876, I believe, or 1877. So around that time, so you're looking at about 150 years, almost 150 years since we were free to go where we wanted to go, when we wanted to go. So yeah, I think that's, as far as the history goes, prior to that, we would have had an annual rice harvest. What I find interesting about it is that you don't hear about our rice harvest like you do the people of the Great Lakes in that region. And maybe it's because we were the area that had first contact with the European settlers that came in. So we were more, I guess, impacted more early on. Yeah. Rice is a perfect example of where we're actually harvesting and planting at the same time. So when it may seem wasteful because we knock the rice off the stalk, and some of it makes it into the canoe and some of it makes it into the water, but that's okay. Sometimes you miss them and the birds will get them or the wind will push it off the stalk. That's okay, because that just means another crop is being planted, so that we'll have plenty of rice next year.
Yes, it's called Sunpoke Lake. I think the project was built almost 50 years ago, certainly 45 years ago. And it was typical of some of the projects that we built along the Wolastoq and the St. John River, where we have a loop dike that allows us to manage water levels to about 2 feet of water inside that dike. So it creates good brood rearing habitat. There's a mixture of open water and emergent vegetation, which is ideal for young broods of ducklings. So what we often lack in New Brunswick and along the St. John River is good brood rearing habitat. We have lots of nesting habitat, but not great habitat for raising young ducklings. So that's what the Sunpoke Lake project was aimed for. Wild rice is a kind of a unique product. Certainly from a waterfowl point of view, the rice is very important in the fall when the ducks are getting ready to migrate. When young ducklings hatch, they have to grow very, very quickly. They have to have a lot of protein. They have to grow almost to the size of their parents. So initially they're eating lots of invertebrates and bugs and kind of green shoots. But when they get closer to migration, they need energy. And the wild rice is a great great fuel for them for their fall migration. So that's why you see lots of waterfowl using areas when there's rice in the fall. We've got wild rice naturally growing in lots of areas. In some areas, we've actually planted wild rice, and there has been some wild rice harvest on some of these marshes along the Oromocto. Not currently, but a number of years ago, there were some commercial operations harvesting wild rice. And every now and again, we will plant rice in an area that we think it's conducive. But along the Oromocto, it's just fabulous, habitat for that rice grows naturally. You see it along the banks of the Wolastoq River, during the summer, kind of lying along the in the shallows, and then as the fall comes along, it stands up and it has all the grains that people are out harvesting today.
It's no wonder it takes weeks.
Weeks, yeah.
Yep.
No, they do it in a day. If the water was higher, we could.
Right.
Yeah. The wetlands are so important to us that I don't think that most people realize how important. And in this time where we're starting to see the drought conditions that have been predicted by the climatologists, that you have wetlands that need to be preserved because they're the ones that recharge our wells. And I had a little well problem the other day, and so I called my local well guy, and he came in, and we're pretty friendly with each other. And I said, so how you been, and what's been going on? He says, you wouldn't believe how many wells we've had to dig this year because so many have gone dry. And he said, I've never dug so many 500 foot deep wells ever in the 30-something years that he's been in business. And right away I thought, wetlands. And it made me think about the significance of just this wetland and every other wetland that we have here in New Brunswick that is being impacted by development or simply by being wrongly not defined as a wetland, and the impact that that's going to have on our water supply, because so many people are on well water, including the city of Fredericton. People don't realize that.
So did you guys have fun today?
Yes. Yeah, it was a great experience. It wasn't as plentiful as we thought, but it was enough to get this and to know the experience, so that maybe if we come by ourselves that we can do it again.
You do it again?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was finding a lot of the stuff that I was seeing along the shore was just like empty shells. It looks like you guys did pretty good, that you got a lot in there that's actually has a rice grain.
Yeah. I'm thankful I was able to share this experience. This is my sister. Yeah. So, for us to share this experience, and then we'll be able to pass it on to our children.
My name is Savannah Purley. Wolastoq woman from Sedonsis First Nation. I'm a student at St. Thomas, taking the Maliseet Immersion Program. Cecilia extended an invitation for us after she had come and did a medicine walk with our class. And I came out because I did not even know that we had wild rice in New Brunswick. And I wanted to experience it for myself.
My name is Sierra Peter Paul. I am a Wolastoq woman from St. Mary's First Nation. I'm a mother of 3 and a current student in the Maliseet Immersion Program through St. Thomas University. Through the Maliseet Immersion Program, we learn our language, but we also learn our traditions and our cultures throughout the past, and this is a part of it. And I'm trying to learn as much as I can, because I have 3 young ones that I want them to know who they are and where they come from and what their people used to do on these lands.
So my name is Matthew Golding. I am a recent graduate of Environmental Management Program, and I've been hired on in the faculty in the TRC group as an Indigenous Outreach Coordinator. So I am. I found it a really collaborative effort. We were talking it would be challenging to do on your own. So we had a lot of teamwork going on, trying to reach for these strands of grass. and to pick off or to hit off the bits of rice into our canoe. It was really fun. I definitely look forward to doing it again.
Awesome.
Nildali was Lisa Pearly Dutcher and Nujaya Nil Negutkuk. My name is Lisa Pearly Dutcher and I'm from Negutkuk.
And why did you come out today?
Because rice, Updal Motini Whale, is a big part of our cultural way of being on the land, and it was one of our survival foods that I really didn't grow up getting to know how to harvest or how to cook it or how to eat it. This was an awesome experience for me to be able to experience that. I love wild rice, and I wanted to feel what our ancestors would have felt when they were doing this activity.
All right, Cecilia, so now that we've collected all the rice, what do we have to do now to actually be able to eat it?
Okay, so before we can eat it, we need to do what is called parching. It's basically cooking the rice, but over I used an old Dutch oven. You could use something like, those big witches' cauldrons. If you had a lot of rice, that would be ideal. In the old days, they would have used different things. One of them would have been a low-grade fire with not even a fire, but like coals with almost like baskets over, almost like a roasting basket over, but just to get it to dry cook. So it dries it out and it cooks it at the same time. And so this one here, I used an old Dutch oven, and I just put it right on the edge of the fire, and I stirred it around until the kernels started popping. There's a big long one right there.
So that's edible grain.
Yes, it's all ready.
Out of the husk. So
Yes.
after you kind of did that part, what do you have to do to get it out of the husks?
So after the husk, then we dig a pit in the ground, line it with animal hide, but we're going to use tarps because it's much more easily to access. And then there's a bit of a dance that's done on top of it, and it kind of crushes so your feet, it's not just the stomping up and down, but the feet go and kind of twist around, and that force pulls that husk off, and then we'll winnow it right in the wind, and all of the chaff will come off into the wind.
So basically the dancing breaks open these husks.
That's right.
Which is even already starting a little bit just
It
from
does.
the handling.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so that's the grain that you actually
That's the
eat.
grain. Yeah, this right here.
In the future, we would really like to continue to grow this event to include even more Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities, and even have a time where people can come to participate in the harvest, prepare some rice, and sample the rice all at the same location over multiple days. At Ducks Unlimited Canada, we so highly encourage people to go out and enjoy wetlands. Our lands, the property that we manage and take care of, are open to traditional use such as hunting, fishing, berry picking, trapping, medicinal plant collection, hiking, and bird watching. There are numerous wetlands around the province that you're more than welcome to explore. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us to find out where it is open for visitation, and it is open to those traditional uses, and we do not restrict in any capacity. Today, this event was sponsored by the New Brunswick Wildlife Trust Fund and the Fredericton Community Foundation.